I know for a lot of you guys, you've been here for quite some time, but I do want to give everybody a little bit of context, deeper understandings as to why potentially previous attempts did not work, right? Because I find that the more we understand what had happened in the past, it's a lot easier for us to avoid those things from happening again. And in future conversations, future presentations, I'd like to maybe dive into deeper concepts to certain principles and practices. And I'd love for you guys to be involved, ask some questions. So at any point today, if there's something you'd like to ask, please feel free to jump in, ask me, ask Steven. Let's dive into it, okay? Now, a lot of people in the past, I know we've all tried many different things, and there's this common misconception for a lot of people that it's a lack of discipline, a lack of effort, a lack of motivation. Just show of hands, who here had felt that way before? Yes, right? Almost everyone, right? The reason that had happened, right, was because we are made to feel like we've set ourselves up for failure from the very, very start, right? Without the right protocols, without the right systems in place, we have set ourselves up for failure. And this is often because of a lack of understanding when it comes to structure, discipline, and really understanding how biology works, how hormones work. I know Stephen has covered things like cortisol, key hormones that may be influencing energy, focus, also your health as a whole. So today I really want to expand on a few principles to help you understand and how to regulate consistency and motivation moving forward. Again, for a lot of the guys that have been here for quite some time, you are probably already at a point where you have done that, right? But I feel like these are just some great reminders. I watched a lot of podcasts and I learned from a lot of different people. I paid lots of mentors, and sometimes they tell me the same thing. And at times it makes me feel frustrated because I'm like, I paid for this. I already know this, but sometimes reminders are a lot more powerful than new information, right? Reminders or understanding how to implement existing principles and just having deeper understandings as to why certain things happen. When you compound new information one after the other, previous information that you might have come across have been re-represented in front of you, you start to perceive things a little bit differently. Yeah, it's just some good reminders. And again, in the future, we'll dive a little bit deeper. But, again, a lot of you guys in the past have genuinely put effort, and I always like to use this visual, this analogy, especially when I speak to new people. You can be sprinting towards a goal, but if you're running towards the wrong direction or running in the same spot, you're never going to get to where you want to go. So when effort is applied inside a process that doesn't align with our physiology, our biology, and just as a whole, your lifestyle, certain actions do not move the needle forward. It might feel like you're putting in maximum effort, you're putting in a lot of work, but you're still not getting the results that you want, right? And this just creates a compounding snowball effect of fatigue, frustration, self-doubt, which eventually leads to burning out, and for a lot of us to just give up altogether, especially when you're trying to juggle career responsibilities, career progression, career growth. People, I know Rich and I had a really good discussion a while back. It's just being present for his family, being present for the team, and also finding a way to prioritize his health, right? So it's all these stresses that compound, and nobody really teaches us how to balance everything. On top of that, culturally, genetically, there are other key influences that may influence our practices too. So it's really becomes really overwhelming to understand why certain things happen, right? And I hope today gives you a bit of context as to why that does happen. But I'm sure a lot of you in the past have, tried fasting, OMAD, carb restrictions, carnivore, high intensity training, right? Who here has actually tried these fad diets, these extreme protocols in the past? Steven? Yeah, me too. And it was miserable. Who here actually succeeded long term with it? Would anybody like to share some personal experiences?
I went on keto back in 2000 and was it 18 after my
Mhm.
manager called me a fatty. I was like, I'm not
Wow.
fat, you're fat. So I looked for like a fast diet, went on keto, and in like 3 months I lost 85 pounds. And initially I was like, oh man, this is so awesome. Like I've lost so much weight in like 3 months. Looking back at pictures now of me losing, 85 pounds versus now I'm like almost 60 pounds down from being evolution. The muscle tone and everything is like so much different, and I would never probably go back to the fad diet. It's not sustainable. Anytime we would go out to like dinner or lunch with family, they'd be
Mm.
like, oh well, what are you gonna eat? And I'd be like, do they have anything that's just meat? Wasn't really for me. The social aspect
And
of
how
food
did that
completely
affect?
goes out the window.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge part of our lives, right? Like being able to be present and enjoy meals with family and friends. Like it's just unrealistic for a
Yeah.
prolonged period of time. And Augustus, did you notice how did that affect your cognitive function, your irritability, just like you as an individual?
I always said like I was like, oh, I kind of hopped on the train of everybody else who was keto. And I was like, my brain is so clear. But if I'm being honest, I don't remember much of my thoughts or memories from when I was on keto. I remember getting angry with people if they didn't like I would go down to Texas and go visit my sister and I'd be like, why is all you have to eat like carb related? Like, why can't I enjoy any food? I told you I'm on keto. Part of it's like an immaturity thing, but another part of it, it's like, man, when you're hungry and everybody else is eating like rice and adobo and lumpia and stuff like that, and you're here like, can I have like the lumpia filling?
Yeah, I hear you. And yes, look, it does come with emotional maturity, but at the same time, there's things that happens within our bodies, our biochemistry that leads to how we act. And a big driver to that is obviously cortisol, stress hormones. But I'm glad you're in a much better position now. And a lot of that, like, and you said it yourself, like when it comes to these diets, these trends, muscle atrophy tends to happen, which in the long run makes fat loss and weight loss even more difficult because you're not doing anything to promote metabolic growth and efficiency either. Again, you may see a lot of results in the very beginning. You're going to see dramatic changes, but it just doesn't work long term and has a negative impact on your metabolism, which I believe Steven has covered in the past, and also influences key hormones which impact your mood and really has this negative anchor to other elements of your life. There's this common umbrella term of calories in versus calories out. Like, yes, that will influence body composition, but micronutrients, macronutrients will really ultimately influence how you feel and your body composition as well, how you look. So if we're able to continue to provide those nutrients, it will really help offset a lot of the negative side effects from being at lower intake, and it becomes a lot more sustainable. In order for you to lose a lot of body fat, you just need to be in a deficit for a prolonged period of time. But that's where a lot of people struggle, right? Because again, a lot of different hormones, strategies need to come into play in order to promote that sustainability. But I appreciate you guys for jumping in and sharing that. As we've discussed, when you implement extreme carb restriction, aggressive calorie cuts, it does elevate this hormone called cortisol, right? Which is a stress hormone composed of carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen molecules. And this is responsible for mobilizing energy during stress as well. So when your cortisol is elevated, it chronically creates this aggressive dieting, overtraining, poor sleep, life, and stress. It also increases hunger, disrupts sleeping patterns, but it also has a negative side effect to other hormones that shift our bodies towards that energy reservation, right? So again, it just creates a compounding effect of making things feel harder, especially long term. A lot of us here already deal with a lot of work stress, irregular sleeping patterns, family responsibilities, work responsibilities. So naturally, as a baseline, your cortisol levels are already at a higher state, caused by, of course, environmental factors, which some of us, we just can't control. That's the reality of life, right? And then when you combine that with poor food regulation, poor structure, your cortisol increases, which causes hunger, poor sleep, reduces your ability to train and recover, and then again, just makes that process a lot more difficult. Again, just diving to laws of thermodynamics. Who here has heard of the term laws of thermodynamics? I know we've covered it in the past. I think you were there, Seth. Dale, I don't think you were there yet, but just revisiting it, right? It might open more conversations for you to ask Steven or Taylor. And these are just nuances. It helps you it's just a good to know, right? There's a couple laws. Obviously, there's energy in versus energy out, to keep it simple. And the whole idea of it is, of course, like your body requires a minimum amount of energy, which is your basal metabolic rate or your maintenance calories, in order for it to function. There's a few different ones. I believe there's 3. That's number 1. Problem with number 1, which is what a lot of people are very aware of, is that it doesn't take into account how your body responds to that deficit. Yes, you're in a calorie deficit, you're eating less calories, but how does your body actually respond to that? And that's where the importance of macronutrients and micronutrients come into play. Yes, you're eating lower calories, but because we're able to still have essential vitamins and minerals and nutrients and recovery, we still feel good. We don't feel like we're going crazy. And that's super, super important to success. We already discussed, when deficits are too aggressive, especially with that recovery phases. And I think, Dale, you were mentioning that you're going to a health phase or a reverse phase. That's going to be crucial for long-term sustainability as well. Because what we want to do is be able to up regular metabolic health again, so that we're able to eat higher food intakes and be able to maintain your body weight, right? Obviously, you're going to gain a bit of weight due to glycogen, due to the water retention. That's going to be natural, but your composition is going to look completely different. And every time you repeat this cycle, your basal metabolic rate starts to gradually increase. So every time you diet, let's say, Dale, you're eating 1600 calories now, or let's say you get down to, I don't know, 15, let's just say, right? Typically, we don't go down that aggressive. It just depends on what your goals are. But let's say you do. In the future, you might not have to eat 1600 calories to get to where you want to go. You might be at 18. You might be at, maybe 17. Just depends. And this, again, gradually increases through time, depending on your level of adherence, etc. So that's why it's so important that we don't just look at a couple of weeks, even a couple months. We look at 12 months, longer periods, because we want to be able to do successfully. And once you've gone through that rotation, you're able to actually sustain it. You're exposed to different environments, different challenges. So when you encounter them in the future on your own, you know exactly what you need to do and how to navigate. Great example for me, like last cut, I did 1800 calories. And I have this issue, like I used to have a really bad relationship with my body and I would love to just stay lean. So I would always undereat at 1800 calories, which for some people here might seem like a lot, but at my composition muscle mass, it's not that much. But I didn't want to eat in a surplus because I didn't want to get fat. Like I just didn't, I was like afraid of being fat, which is unhealthy. Like I had a really unhealthy relationship with my body growing up. So that's something I had to learn to overcome. But when I just trusted the process, I allowed myself to get a little bit fluffier, still in shape, but maybe not what I'm typically at in terms of body fat. My second cut, 6 months later, I'm able to eat a lot more. These phases are important just to regulate your metabolic health, but also your sanity as well. Because again, the goal is about long term. So eventually your body starts to adapt by lowering energy output, increasing hunger signals and prioritizing fat storage. So that's also known as metabolic adaptation. And that's why some of you guys maybe in the past may have been putting in the same level of effort, doing the same thing, maybe even working harder, but you weren't getting that result that you were looking for. And if we were to continue, let's say, some of your deficits, it's going to feel a lot harder. You're going to get a lot less return for the effort that you're putting in. So you feel like you're suffering, but you're not. It's just you're not getting the ROI back, right? So we want to avoid that because that's when people start to plateau and relapse. Now, energy, fat loss, and consistency, it's a regulated process. It's systematic, right? When your stress remains high and recovery is insufficient, hormonal signaling starts to shift. So your insulin sensitivity starts to get worse, your hunger hormones become unstable, satiety signals, essentially how full you feel, that becomes irregulated as well. I don't know if anybody here in the past who's tried restrictive diets, you just can't stop eating. Even though you feel full or you don't know if you feel full, like you just don't know where to stop. Who's ever been in that state? I haven't heard from you today. So what was that experience like, man?
When you say that, you mean like not like eating and just not knowing if you're like full or not?
Yeah, you just kept eating, you couldn't stop. What led to that?
I don't know. I feel like some of it might have been, it could have just been like boredom, maybe, or you just feel like you just don't have like a sense of time or like how you're spending like your day, maybe. I feel like the past 2 months or so, I have like a better, like perspective of like how much time I really am spending during a day. And just knowing like, I don't, like I can still feel like I have enough energy, but I also don't need to spend it like chowing or during the day. For, I guess, long story short, for me, it just felt like maybe just boredom and just sense of time.
Did you eat at lower food intakes at the time, or were you eating quite regularly?
I felt like I was eating pretty regularly, attempted really like a super low like calorie.
Maybe it is just boredom. Like it's very easy for a lot of us to reach out for the fridge or snack when we're not really doing much, right? That's why we encourage the idea of regulating your meal times if possible, because we're able to recondition and retrain our psychological process and relationship with food, right? Because you start to get hungry at certain times, which is what we want to do. But it doesn't sound like people have experienced that before. Because I've dieted down at really low body fat percentages and it was quite aggressive. You get to a point where you just don't know you're full and it just hits you all at once. And there was a time I remember in Houston, I went to Sushi Masa. I don't know if anyone here has heard of Sushi Masa in America, or maybe it was a Houston thing. It's like an all-you-can-eat Japanese place. I was about to say go deal because it's so good, but probably don't do that. But it was so much food and sushi. Like I just kept ordering. It was all you can eat. I had like 5 plates of katsu and like 6 plates of sushi. And I remember going home that time. I felt like I had a night out of drinking alcohol. Like it was so bad. I couldn't move. I just felt like throwing up and I felt knocked warped out. My hunger hormones, my satiety signals, it was just so warped that I just didn't know when to stop. Like my body struggled to communicate with my brain. And that's what we try to avoid for you guys. So I'm glad you've never gone through it in the past, and our plan here is so you don't ever have to go through that, because that was not fun.
Yeah, I wanted to chime in for the guys that joined, like have been in the cause recently. Does anybody know what Alex? I spoke about it in the last cause a couple of times. Does anyone know the response of why you're doing that? The main thing that Alex is talking about is stress being a massive player in regards of hormone signaling, right? And he's talking about leptin. He's talking about ghrelin. Those are two responses to trying to stay full and trying to your appetite. Why does your body do that? So a certain answer I'm looking for starts with D,
Oh, you're talking about the dopamine?
right? Naturally, your body's response to stress is to find something that makes you happy, right? So if you're in this deficit for a very long time, it's grueling, it's hard. When you get that touch of dopamine, you don't think your body wants more. That feeling of stress in that moment, it almost disappears. That's why I always talk about that's very temporary. You kind of have to go through it once or twice in your life to be like, I don't want to do that again. So I assure you, Augustus isn't having 3,500 calories of Hawaiian food anymore because he knows how it's going to feel. It's like how people get turned off. It's like how people get turned off a certain alcohol because they binge on that alcohol and now they smell it.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, it kills me. You need to reframe and understand, like, a lot of the times your body, even when it's stressed out, its signals are all messed up. You guys have the back end and the knowledge to know, like, it's because it's looking for that dopamine hit. It's trying to chase that feeling. Don't
That's true.
trade momentary happiness for long-term health.
Thanks for breaking that down there, Stephen. Also a good way to test people. Yeah, very well said. Very, very well explained. There was this one time, it's so true about the alcohol. I've been sober for about 6 years. I haven't had a single drop, and that's because I have a very obsessive personality, and I used to drink so much alcohol when I would drink, which was very rare. And I just remember one night I drank almost like a whole liter, and it was so painful the next day, and I just never wanted to experience that again. Same thing with food. That made me realize I need to make a change. And I find that with a lot of people, there's this saying like people don't change until the pain of remaining the same outweighs the pain of change. I always challenge everyone. I'm like, don't wait for pain to occur. Don't wait for it to be so painful to commit to something good for you. If you can avoid that state, whether that be a relationship with food, alcohol, finances, do whatever you can in your power to avoid that. Make the investments and the decisions and the choices now. Put yourself in a better position in the future, right? Mitigate risk. Anyways, a lot of people use the word motivation when they can't even explain or understand what the thought sequence they're actually trying to break down. Motivation is what I like to just call a coping word or a label. Let's define it mechanically, and this is what that equation looks like. Motivation is just perceived progress multiplied by confidence in the process. It's an emotional response to feedback. So when you see your progress improve, motivation goes up. And by understanding this, we can reverse engineer how we can manipulate to feel motivated. So when progress stalls or it stands still, you hit a plateau, or it feels unpredictable or sporadic, motivation starts to disappear, right? And this is important because a lot of the coaches, our advisors, Steven, Taylor, that's why we really focus on shifting your attention from just the scale to other parts of your progress and your journey. We want you to continue to feel motivated, but motivation is just a perspective shift. But it's like this belief that we have that we need it in order to succeed until we start to develop practices of discipline. I guess what I'm trying to say is when you come to this realization, it's a lot easier for you to build discipline because you understand the thought sequence behind motivation, right? You just understand, okay, I just don't feel motivated because I'm not seeing progress. But what if I look for progress in different areas? You're able to shift how you feel. And when you shift how you feel, you're able to easily manipulate how you act. Does that kind of make sense, or is that too philosophical? Has anybody ever looked at it that way?
Probably like, it's funny. I think back of when I first, you first invaded my Instagram feed.
Sounds
and
familiar.
and I think the big thing that kind of got me was the changing the method of thinking and the confidence and stuff like that. Because I actually I ordered a new home gym, and it just came in today. I feel really bad for the FedEx guy who carried it off the truck.
Oh wow.
But Yeah, I know like back in the day, I would have played with the idea of ordering a home gym and thought to myself, like, no, it's not worth the money. I could just get a gym membership. I could do this, that, and the third, you know. Like we've had really bad snow days here the past week. Trying to get to the gym, the risk didn't outweigh the reward. Being able to get like a home gym now, it doesn't matter if the weather's bad. I can knock out like a badass workout here. And I just think about like the mindset change and motivation to do that, because before it's I would just say, oh cool, I guess we're having some extra rest days this week. But now it's like I have that motivation where it's like, no, I don't want an extra rest day. Like I've been looking at things more along the lines of, is this an investment or is this like a pleasure thing,
Yes.
right? Like before I would reward myself with food. Now I'm rewarding myself with like, dude, I've worked out hard for the past 7 months. I've like really been watching what the hell I've been eating for the past 7 months. Why wouldn't I reward myself with an investment, a further
Yeah.
investment into my own self?
And to succeed, and I love that you bring that point, Augustus, because the way I look at life is it's a game, right? There's just levels to it. What separates really ultra successful people from people who might be less successful is perspective shifts, how they perceived opportunities in front of them, how they're able to manipulate feelings and actions, how they perceive definitions of feelings and actions. Like that within itself is such a powerful mental mechanism, because once you understand that, you're able to really take control of that and manipulate the outcomes of your life. Everything else becomes a byproduct of that. Because if you look at things at a funnel, right? You know, a funnel is shaped like an upside down triangle. The top of that triangle, the highest lever you can pull is mental manipulation, perspective manipulation. How can you shift the way you see opportunities in front of you? And that makes stages that come after that so much easier to commit to, right? Because you can understand all the science, the beliefs, the theories, the knowledge, but until you get over mental roadblocks and limiting beliefs, it's going to be extremely difficult for you to fulfill and execute. Thanks for sharing that. But yeah, progress isn't something you feel, it's something we measure, right? And that's why we're very particular about conditioning you guys and giving you guys the skills and knowledge, but also mindset to understand metrics and perceptions correctly. And because of this way of thinking, we're able to analyze trends, shorten feedback loops, which is something I'd like to discuss later, but also have correct interpretation of data, which again influences our decision-making process. So if you don't have those things in place, motivation will always feel like it's coming and going. It's always going to feel like it's unstable because it's driven by emotion rather than by evidence. Now, I'm going to quickly skim through key hormones that is involved in the whole process of sustainability. You know, there's cortisol, which increases under stress and food restriction. When it's chronically high, cravings and fat retention increases, right? You have thyroid. I don't know if Steven spoke about this, but it helps regulate your metabolic rate, right? Prolonged aggressive dieting can really suppress them, which lowers your total daily energy output, right? So sometimes it's not just a matter of calories in versus calories out. It could be an irregulated hormone, your thyroid, your T3, which sometimes require medication, right? But I always like to use medication and supplementation as a last resort. You have your leptin and ghrelin, which controls hunger and fullness. You have your testosterone, which supports muscle retention, recovery, and drive, and it's easily influenced by sleep, stress, and malnourishment as well, right? Especially as you get older, your testosterone levels naturally tend to decrease. For those of you that are constantly sluggish despite eating well, highly recommend getting your test levels checked out and maybe looking into testosterone replacement therapy, right? Which I'd love to dive into a little bit in the future. Just to kind of speed run through things now. Now, the body is obviously an adaptive mechanism. A lot of us, again, works in super high stress environments, juggling a lot of different responsibilities. So when you combine that with aggressive dieting phases or things that are difficult to recover from, it elevates cortisol and it makes the whole process a lot more difficult. As we've already discussed, you know, being too aggressive, it doesn't really just affect the body, it does affect your mental and emotional health as well. So what we do instead is manipulate calorie and macro intake, right? So timing carbohydrates correctly, structuring specific macronutrients and micronutrients to manage your energy levels throughout the day, but also manage your cortisol, your leptin, allowing us to preserve training performance and again, just extend sustainability. Now, I know I've spoken to lots of guys who's joined the program and, you know, majority, I would say 90% of our clientele is Asian. And, you know, being Asians, we have this cultural programming of working harder always brings better results. It's a bit of an old mindset that our family had adopted, survival mentality to create security in the Western world. Like being an immigrant, I just saw my parents work super hard, but they were not necessarily working smart. A lot of us were taught to just kind of push through the pain, suffering's normality, but if we're actually smart about the effort that we put in, we're able to leverage a lot more results with minimal effort. Not that I'm saying be lazy and work less, but let's get the most out of the effort that we put in. Who here is guilty of that mindset? Who here has always thought, I just need to work harder, I just need to push harder? But that wasn't the case, right? I guess you just had to be smart. It's just about efficiency, working smarter with the tools, resources that we have, and how can we leverage that to get the most outcome with the least input. Yeah, so this is just me kind of going over health phases. Again, like a lot of times when you are in restrictive caloric phases for a long time period, and you don't upregulate your metabolic health, it does have long-term negative effects. So what we want to do is gradually bring you back to that state, so your metabolism is a lot more efficient moving forward in different, right? And you're able to sustain the weight that you actually lose and not just rebound like you have in the past. Yeah, so this is actually quite an important point, right? Without having a health phase, we're unable to reset hormonal signaling, which doesn't allow us to stabilize our mind, our body, and you end up in the same, if not worse position. Because psychologically, when you never feel like you've recovered, your brain starts to resent future deficits, future phases, and then automatically you resort back into cravings, emotional eating, fatigue, and burnout. So we're just trying to mitigate those future risks as well. And there's studies out there that obviously supports that idea of how important it is to gradually increase your caloric intake or reset your hormones, just depending on where you're at with your journey. But super, super important part of the process. And sorry if I'm rushing here. I think Google Meets will shut down in 10 minutes. So I'm just trying to get through everything. We already discussed a lot of us are in this mentality of all or nothing, right? Just like sacrificing everything else, absolutely no balance. And it's so difficult to juggle life. Like we're no longer in our early 20s where we had all the time in the world. Our body was a lot younger, a lot fresher. It's different now, there's different challenges, and not just biologically, but environmentally as well, right? So we need to not just give one parts of our, like a lot of people have the tendency to put 100% and then 0%, 0%, 0%, but we actually want to do like 70, 40, like we want to have balances, and every stage of life has different seasons, and maybe we have to make slight adjustments. But the point I'm trying to make is never just overemphasize on one part of your life, whether that be work, whether that be your health, whether that be just relationships. If you ignore other departments of your life, things will fall apart. All pillars need to progress in some degree, just as a normal reminder. Look, everything else maybe we can cover in a different call. But yeah, things in the past, just to kind of wrap things up, nothing worked because our approaches, it ignored our biology, our psychology, our culture, our lifestyle, our mindset, and all these mental reframes that play a huge role in the likelihood of our success. And often we just try to combat that by just working harder instead of working smarter, okay? But yeah, what are some key things, just to wrap everything up, that you've learned throughout this entire process so far that has really helped with balance, sustainability, and longevity?
I know for me, a big thing was, especially being a dad and a husband, like my wife, she's very big, or was very big, on just like eating the foods that she liked, and that kind of went into our kids as well. She saw my progress throughout here, and I've been noticing her making some changes in like the way she's eating. Basically, my whole family now has transitioned from sour cream and reduced fat sour cream to just Greek yogurt. And to be honest, it's goated. You can't tell a difference in the taste, and you're getting extra protein. And just like little decisions, our in-laws went to the Cheesecake Factory and they asked if we wanted some cake, and she was like, no, we're doing okay. Like, you don't have to worry about it. She's making like these smarter decisions, and it's really cool. And like I said, the home gym came in today, and my son's looking at me and he's like, wow, Dad, you're really strong. It's not necessarily babysitting my kids at the gym anymore. They could come out to the garage with me. I can teach them workouts. Dude, if you can do something to better yourself with someone you love, that's like some of the strongest motivation in this planet, and it doesn't matter if it's your partner or if it's your kids or it's your best friend. Like if you have somebody, not necessarily an accountability buddy, but somebody that you can make a bond with. We as humans, even if we're nomadic with other people. Those relationships help sustainability and longevity. If you're doing something by yourself over and over again, you're eventually going to gravitate towards something that you can do with somebody, whether that be drinking, drugs, or something positive.
And who do you think was responsible for influencing your family there, Augustus?
To be honest, at the end of the day, I saw your video, I talked to your coaches, but at the end of the day, you guys weren't going to eat the food for me. You guys weren't going to go to the gym for me. You guys weren't going to work out for me. You guys gave me the skills, the tools, the weapons to attack the problem that I had. But at the end of the day, I have to be the one to use it. with the results I've gotten, with the discipline I've gotten in multiple aspects of my life, I feel like I've motivated like multiple people in my life, not just my family, but friends too.
That's what I love to hear. I love to hear how we impact one life and how that life can impact multiple lives, especially those that they love and care for. Because the biggest form of love is bettering yourself, because that creates a huge domino effect on the people around you. And the same goes with my family. Like, they started tracking their food. Like, we had Christmas, everybody, like, we had healthy food options. We had the food scales, like it was great. And like the whole family was a part of it, which is
Nah, man, I'm just glad that everybody has the same shift in mindset. Definitely can see the difference between when I first met you guys. Like, I'm not even your coach, you know what I mean? And it's nice to see that that's translating into, what the other coaches are saying, but also your guys' progress as well.
Yeah, I'm really happy with how everyone has progressed, and it's nice to see everyone. What's super important is that you guys should all be very proud of yourselves and how far you've come. And for the people that are new here, it's just a start. Get excited to see what you can do, not just for yourself, but for the people around you.
I was
Next
joking
week-
around with my friends that this is like the most positive pyramid scheme I've ever been a part of.
I'll take it. I'm going to take it.
Yeah, because we're like, how's it a pyramid scheme? I was like, because I got you thinking about your health now too.
That's really good. No, but it's good to catch up with everyone. Next week, let us know what you'd like us to visit. We can talk about things you guys find relevant to today. And I'm always happy to expand, share personal experiences. All right. See you all next time. Bye.